Welcome to Floyd Treat's Finest. He is former Louisville assistant Mark Lieberman. I am Jack Grossman. Thanks so much for tuning in. Coach, they got you in the dungeon in the station there?
I'm in the dungeon. You know this place very well,
I
Jack. I
do.
I actually found a little secluded spot that could do the trick for our podcast today. Yeah, this room's not so bad. I've never actually sat in here. There's all kinds of monitors and buttons and little things going. It looks like I'm controlling like the nuclear codes and whatnot. So
Hey, I mean, it gets the job done. Acoustic sounds good. That's really all I care about.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
meanwhile, I'm in the old childhood bedroom. Back in Louisville, so we're having fun.
I love
We're
it.
absolutely having fun. Again,
I'm trying to
Floyd,
look at all the posters as you get to the
yeah,
reads.
you're
Hold on.
you're you're honestly probably on one or two of these. I have like all of the old schedule posters
Oh, excellent.
on there. Yeah, there's the 2011-12 one that might be off screen. 2009.
Oh, yep, I see it. Yep, I know that picture well. I'm seated in a seated position for that one. Go ahead.
Yep. Yep, got a bunch of tickets because I was very into collecting tickets when I was a kid. So
Love
very
it.
lucky to get to a lot of those. So yeah, no, love to be back in the old childhood bedroom for the week for Thanksgiving. Coach, got any big Thanksgiving plans?
Not going to a family friends on Thursday.
Nice.
Gonna bring my little one with me. Emery's going there. They love her. They adore her. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. And then the rest of the weekend, enjoying as much college basketball and as I can. So it's gonna be fun. That to
Oh
me
yeah.
is, I shouldn't reveal this on the podcast, but people call me, oh, I'm busy. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I'm going to be enjoying my Mark Lieberman time. So
There's
there
nothing
you
wrong with
go.
that. That's always my balance, and spending time with family and watching all the
Uh-huh.
Feast Week stuff.
Exactly.
So, yeah, but I actually I want to start this again. This Fort Street's Finest, powered by the Field of 68 podcast network. He's Mark Lieberman. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach Lieberman. I'm at Jack Grossman 97 on Twitter. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, however you're consuming this. We do really, really appreciate all of that. I want to start with Feast Week before we dive into Louisville specific stuff. Um, I want to talk about Cincinnati because that was a real slugfest, and
Hmm.
frankly, this is my platform to talk about games like that. So I want to get we hit on Eastern Michigan for Monday night as well. But this is, as you said, Feast Week, one of my favorite weeks of the year, not just for Thanksgiving and family, but because of the basketball also. And it's always really high level. That's still the case this year. But I want to get your thoughts on kind of the shift that we've seen in Feast Week and non-conference scheduling, the players era term. I know I was going back and forth with people on Twitter about it last night. Don't get this construed. Like Alabama Gonzaga, that was a fantastic basketball game on Monday night. Houston and Syracuse, I was at the Louisville game, so I didn't get to see much of it, but that was a very high level game. St.
Hmm.
John's and Iowa State, great basketball. I'm not arguing it's the quality of basketball. And at the end of the day, I'm still going to watch because it's still really damn high quality basketball. But for me, I want your thoughts on this as well. What makes Feast Week is not just the great games, and obviously that is a very key component of it. The way the players era is set up, playing it in Las Vegas, where and more specifically playing it in the Vegas Las Vegas Aces arena, the other arena they're playing in these 15, 16, 17,000 seat arenas, the people that are there are into it, but it feels like a soulless wasteland most of the time watching these games, atmosphere wise. And you compare that to Maui, which is having an incredibly down field. I know Seton Hall beat NC State. That was a fun game. Chaminade almost won last night,
Hmm.
which was fun. But and Atlantis, where yes, I get it. Change happens, all that stuff, but and those places are not easy or cheap to get to either. But the way they have those set up in the ballrooms in the tiny gym in Maui, you get more of an atmosphere that makes it more feel like college basketball as compared to the players era or a lot of these MTEs we get early in the season where they're played not close to either team's campus in these NBA gyms where there's no one there. And for me, I think it's better for the sport to have situations like a Maui or a Bahamas to promote the sport on one of its premier weeks of the season. I don't think it's great to have arenas that are 90% empty. And becomes a Louisville thing next year because Louisville's entering into players era next year, which I don't blame them for doing. You get the NIL aspect and you get to play a lot of great games. There's nothing wrong with that. But what are your thoughts on kind of the state of Feast Week and non-conference scheduling as we go more towards kind of these soulless, listless arenas compared to what traditionally has made college basketball great?
You better get used to it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the way. It's funny you brought that up because I'm watching Alabama and Gonzaga. I'm watching St. John's and Iowa State, and yeah, there's other than behind the benches when they kind of avoided the panoramic views as much as possible, but when they had to show them, yeah, you see copious amounts of empty seats, and I think that's something that you're going to look at saying, okay, how can we fix this or correct it or whatnot? And I don't know if there's an answer because the amount of money being thrown at these teams, whether, and I read the CBS article on the
yeah, they had a
whole
real good
event.
piece on it.
Oh, it was fantastic. But hey, the money is being paid, wherever it's being sourced from, whether it's from the TV show Landman or whatnot, from nefarious sources. In all jest, look, it's their teams were worried about if it's going to be televised, if they're going to get paid, if all those are things. And now it's taking off, but you do lose that element, that um, sterile type of environment compared to what you would see. And it wouldn't even say college basketball; it was almost high school esque. It was
Yeah,
in Maui, and then obviously playing in the Battle for Atlantis because they knew they would accommodate. They didn't want to have empty seats. It's like anything else. When I coached the McDonald's All American game, the first year was in Miami. There's a lot of things to do in Miami. And I remember the 2 days before they were the event holders were coming. Hey, send this out to high schools. We're going to give these tickets away. We're going to give this because they want to have a filled arena. And it got as close as it could, but that's just a different venue. And that obviously it's been in places where they know they can have the market. So look, but it's here to stay. So bemoaning it is only going to get you so far. I understand exactly what I love atmosphere. When I go to a game, and look, when I coached at Southeastern Louisiana, we put a good product on the floor, but we had the arena was just it was almost empty at times just because of how big it was. So that's a part you don't like because look at those games, right? For most people, they would give their arm to be at a game like
it's
that to
great
watch a day.
basketball. Yeah.
Yeah, and just seeing Jeff Goodman behind the bench enjoying it, but you look up, yeah, there's just not a lot of fans. I think that's something they have to look to rectify, but it's just the state of where the sport is right now. And you're putting these games together, and maybe that's something they can figure out where maybe it could be at one of those larger high schools that they have in Las Vegas because they have high schools there that seat 5,000, 10,000 people. So maybe that's a way to look at it. I don't have the answer, but I'd love to see because as a coach, I love when you can't even hear yourself. It's fantastic.
Right, because I'm gonna be completely honest. Like the COVID season, 2020, 2021, it was the Jalen Suggs shot is an iconic moment in March
Mm-hmm.
Madness, and there were a
Mm-hmm.
lot of great games, a lot of great basketball that year. But it felt like most of that year we were trying to convince ourselves it's just as good as it normally is, whereas deep down we knew it's just not the same. I feel like that's what we're doing
Yeah.
with players there. The basketball's great. The matchups are great. The coaches, the players are great. I love that the players are getting NIL out of it. But at the end of the day, deep down, we know it's not as good as either a Maui or an Atlantis at its best, or an on-campus home and home. It's just not. And part of the issue too is again, I love it that it's Feast Week. I love that it's become such a thing for college basketball during Thanksgiving week.
Mm-hmm.
But one, families want to be with family during Thanksgiving. They would rather be watching on TV on the couch. And two, I get it, Maui and Atlantis aren't exactly cheap to go to either. But when 98% of the fan base is priced out of these trips, which is what happens when you go to Maui, Atlantis, or Vegas, you're trying to put on the higher end people. There's a limited amount of people that are going to be able to take these types of trips too often. Being a sports fan is not cheap. Guys, it's
Right.
unfortunate. I wish
But
it
you
was. I
right.
would go to a lot more stuff if it was. But
But those
but
events have figured out ways to make sure it's a capacity. Whether
right,
it's
one
you're
it's
going to
at
have the
capacity,
fans,
but two, the capacity is just so much smaller to
of
where
course.
I think you're getting the same amount of fans, if not even a few more in Vegas, because it is a little bit cheaper than you are in Maui or Atlantis. But because the venue's so much bigger, it feels like the COVID season where you're trying to convince yourself it's just as good. Where deep down you're like,
Well, just you
yeah,
know, you put some stock in the fact that I'm sure they realize it. TNT
yeah,
realizes it, and that's something that they'll look to in the years to come to find a way to make it. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen because you're going to have 32 teams next year.
right.
So
And it's a 2 week event next year. That makes it
exactly.
even more difficult. Like, how many Louisville fans and Louisville is one of the best fan bases. We saw what they did in Cincinnati a week ago on Friday night. Night the amount of people that went up to Cincy for that game. How many Louisville fans can go to Vegas for 2 weeks?
Hmm. Well,
Like,
that's
guys.
this is all part of the dilemma of what, and you're not in the minority here, but this is the scope of what's happening to college athletics because the money is still there, and if they have an opportunity to weigh and balance, all right, we're not going to play in a capacity arena in like we would in Maui or Battle for Atlantis, but we're able to fund our NIL. Well, that's going to be a decision that's going to be quite easy for all these teams to make.
Oh, absolutely. I know Arizona's staying in Maui next season, which I commend them for doing, but you're right. It's a
But the
better
reason they're
financial
doing it
decision.
is financially they're not in that position. If they were in the
Yeah.
position, they're saying that. And again, I don't know the specifics of what their collective is, but I do know that they're not in a position that they're worried about how they're going to be able to fund their roster as well. So if there's a team that was in that position and they realize they're going to get more money from going to Vegas, then they're certainly going to do that, Jack.
Right.
And
Oh, absolutely.
it sounds wonderful that we're going to stay with our commitment, but if there was an opportunity for their athletic department to make more money, they're going to do that.
No, for sure. And I completely understand the cold hard facts of the reality of it. I'm
I
just
know you're speaking
yeah.
as from fandom
Yeah.
and I know you look the romantic aspect of the sport, and I'm with you. Like I would do anything, whether I was coaching at the prep level, when I was in college, giving out pizzas and getting the students there and going rallying people like that, getting people to games. And you saw what Coach Kelsey did in year one, getting everybody out, and it still wasn't there. And now, yeah, we're getting people there, but that's a shame because I know
It's what
what
makes
you're coming
college
from.
basketball college basketball.
It
And
makes
same thing with
all
college
athletics.
football.
It
Yeah.
makes all athletics right to have like the fans there. That's what you're doing it for. You talked about the COVID years when the NBA put up those free, creepy little pictures of fans and whatnot and fake cheer. Yeah, that was weird. Like that's
Yeah.
not something you want to see. So I understand your perspective for sure, and I'm
Yeah.
with you on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing it goes back from this is if Maui and Atlantis were able to find, and I keep using those two. Obviously, there's many more tournaments than those two.
Well,
Those are
those
just
are
the
the
most
two
prominent
big
ones.
ones,
Yeah,
and you know what? I'm sure that right now they have people on it, and they
yeah.
have. Uh, I'm going to make a Indiana Jones or Raiders of the Lost Ark reference. We have our top men, top men. I don't know if you're familiar with that scene, but they're working on
So
that.
I know the phrase. I have not seen the movie.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah,
You need to see that movie, Jack. Okay, next time we
I'll put it on the
podcast,
list.
you need to put it on the list. Okay, there's a Captain America reference right there. Put it on the list
Yep,
from
I have
Winter
seen that one.
Soldier. Okay,
I have seen that one.
okay, good for you.
Which is good. But I think ESPN can play a role in that as well. If they want to show that they actually care about the sport, which I'll be completely honest, they normally don't do, this would be an opportunity because TNT's working with Players Era. That's one of ESPN's biggest, marketing things that they do over Thanksgiving is Feast Week, and
Mm-hmm.
the best program is going to TNT right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't have a dog in that fight, but if you're ESPN, you probably wouldn't want that. But anyways, that's we've done 15 minutes of ranting on this. I do want to get to actual Louisville again. U of L will be in the Players Era next year, and again, for everything we've talked about, the pros of the NIL money you can get with it and the matchups, the elite matchups you're going to get, I fully understand why U of L is going into it, and there are real benefits to that. But as far as this season goes, Louisville beat Eastern Michigan on Monday night. But I want to start with the Cincinnati game, get
Mm-hmm.
some thoughts on that because obviously that was Friday night. We're on Tuesday now, but well, this is my forum to be able to vent or talk about that. But Coach, what stood out for you in that Cincinnati game? Because we do going into it, Cincinnati number two in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency ratings, really really good front court. And we saw that in the first half. Cincinnati was able to kind of drag Louisville into the mud, and U of L really struggled with it. But I was really impressed with how Louisville was able to react. Really, the last 30-ish minutes of the game, but especially in the second half, where they're up over 1.3 points per possession in the second half, which is really hard to do, especially against a defense like that. Ryan Conwell and Frew were both really good, kind of establishing Louisville early in that second half. Michael Brown had the two big plays to kind of seal the game late. Just really impressive. It went kind of the way I thought it would, to where Cincinnati would be able to hang around for a while. Louisville never really fully pulled away, but by the midway point in the second half, you kind of had that feeling of, okay, Louisville's the better team. The talent's going to win out. They've kind of figured out a way to get enough offense here. And it was more than just enough offense. They really torched that a really good Cincinnati defense in the second half. It was damn impressive.
So you know that day, the game, I was on with Coach Rummage on Marcus and the Marcus Maven show, and I talked about this year. There's going to be a time, not knowing that it was going to be that evening, where Louisville was going to have to win a game 67-63 or 70-67. Regardless, they were going to have, because that's what happens in the tournament.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's so impressive, they scored 28 points in the first half. They shot 26.9% from the field, and they only gave up 32. And they were right there in the game. And no matter what's so impressive about this team, and we were just talking about all these big games on all these stages. It's amazing to watch the team defense that Louisville has, individually and collectively. And when you have guys like McNeely and Conwell and Woolley and Frew, all these guys are locked in, whether they're scoring or not. These guys are absolutely defending from a team standpoint, and individually, they're taking so much pride on that end that I think that they're going to score. They're going to have games. Even last night, right? And we'll just quickly allude to Eastern Michigan. They only scored 4 points at the intermediate timeout, right?
Yep.
But so did Eastern Michigan, and they were shooting at a 14% clip. So no matter what, this team is going to be in games. And you know how hard that is in today's world of college basketball? You look at all these Coach Pitino, just watching St. John's yesterday, how many easy baskets they gave up, how inconsistent their coverages were on ball screens and team defense, and there were plays where guys were out of position, over helping, and so on. And you see that from an Iowa State as well. Look, just to Earl Grant at Boston College, who hung his hat on what a defensive philosophy is. When you get these transfers in, these guys aren't really. There's so much that has to be a carry. Like, you're not having consistent. You're not having guys from year 1, year 2, year 3 who are understanding your defensive concepts. But you got to give credit to this Louisville basketball team, to what they're doing. You're getting guys who are committed to that end. They have defensive DNA. They understand that, you know what? That's not going to affect them on the offensive end if they're not scoring. McNeely, who's not making shots in the last couple, he's still in the right positions. He's still where he's supposed to be. Conwell, all those guys. So that's really impressive about that. And because of that, then they come out and make shots in the Cincinnati game. And you saw slippage by Cincinnati. They're taking bad shots. Their slippage on defensively, where that wasn't something that happened with Louisville. So, look, the length of Cincinnati, which all that does, that changes. You don't get shots off as you would against Eastern Michigan, because the closeouts, guys can recover in 0.4 seconds quicker because you're 6'9" instead of 6'3". And around the basket, it's not going to be as easy to finish and so on. But Louisville was absolutely committed on the defensive end. And when they can turn their defense and turn it over into offense, they're almost unbeatable.
Yeah, and Louisville's a top 20 team in the country right now in defensive turnover percentage. They've been a really good team at using that ball pressure, both in the full court, especially in the half court, to try to jumpstart that transition game. You know, some of your best offense can't be your defense. Get turnovers or touchdowns, stuff like that. I think key stretch of the game, Michael Brown, about 4 minutes left, hits a deep three. Then the next possession, gets a deflection. Louisville gets a steal, ends up Brown getting a dunk on the other end.
Yeah.
Just easy things like that to just be backbreaking for the
Oh,
team you're
yeah.
playing. And that was really like, okay, Cincinnati was within 6, I believe, at that point before the
Mm-hmm.
three. You get back out to 11 in about 12 seconds. It goes, yeah, this one's probably over.
Yeah, but you mentioned Mikhail Brown, and Conwell has kind of developed into that role as being that really good on the ball defender. But on the ball makes you a pretty good team, Jack, off the ball wins championships. And you watch this team off the ball, you look at them in their stance and their awareness and understanding where they need to be two places at once, whether they're stunting and they're in different positions and allowing defenders to really pressure, like you just mentioned, because they understand the gap coverages. They're not allowing splits. They're shrinking those gaps. They're doing all those type of things. They're rebounding. They're boxing out. They're doing all the things that affect winning. So it's not just an individual standpoint, collectively, they're really sound defensively. And you're just not seeing that from so many teams because players come in and they're looking to score and they're looking, to put their numbers because that's what they were brought into, right? You're looking at like, all right, we're going into the portal. We're not looking at all his defensive numbers where, hey, who can give us an offensive lift? And sometimes terminology changes and so on. And some of these guys look, Virginia defensively is a lot different than how Coach Kelsey plays. Not completely because they are where they cover gaps and they try and shrink it. And I know pack line, I've said it before, I've said it again. I don't use that terminology. People like to use it. And it's a term that I know Coach Kelsey uses. So look, it's something that this team understands. And they get guys to buy in. It's a credit to this coaching staff. It's a credit to the players.
Yeah, you said it. You got to be able to win games different types of ways in March. And I love, not just for the rivalry aspect of this game, getting this game on the schedule
Mm-hmm.
with the way Wes Miller wants his team to play. Cincinnati did play slower, especially in that first half. Because I know we were texting back and forth on this during the day on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati, 14th fastest team in the country coming into
Yeah.
this game in terms of their offensive possession length. They definitely had to slow the game. Now they did that for the first half, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it sped up a little bit more in the second half, which favored Louisville, but still, with the defense,
Yeah.
the length, athleticism, that's a challenge
Which
that's going to help you. Yeah.
still confounds me that Kentucky didn't do the same thing. That was kind of the formula for me that I felt that what Cincinnati did, right, we're not playing at that pace. And we're going to make it tougher around the rim. We're going to make Louisville play in the half court, which they're very efficient at doing. But at the same time, we're going to do that. And again, I think Louisville, you look at some of those turnovers, you look at some of the things they did defensively, and it really wasn't so much their defense, as you said it, Jack, it really fueled their offense, and it really got them to go out and force Cincinnati to take those quick shots that they didn't want to do in the first half. They're taking quick bad shots instead of good early shots, and that's what turned the game over. And it's still I'm befuddled with Kentucky's game plan against Louisville, and we can get off that topic, but
Yeah, I
I
mean,
thought Cincinnati had a good game plan with what they were trying to do.
yeah, Kentucky had odd gameplay against Michigan State as well. That didn't really work too great for them either. I guess more of a lack of an adjustment there, but that's enough on Kentucky. But they have their own problems. But kind of going off of this though, playing this game against Cincinnati prepares you for in a few weeks. You got to go to Knoxville and Tennessee in
Mm-hmm.
a true road game. And Tennessee is better than almost anyone in the country that dragging you down into the muck and playing that type of game. Louisville having this experience against Cincinnati helped prepare them for that Tennessee game. Having that experience for the Tennessee game of the Tennessee game and both of those games is going to help you come March because as you said, you can't just win 6 games in a row in the NCAA tournament. That almost never happens where you can win them all just playing the way you want to play.
No
You
doubt.
have to be able to win games in different ways. And Louisville getting that experience and can call back on this, say, hey, we've been down in the muck. We've had to win with defense. We haven't made shots before, and we still found a way to win. Is something that can instill a lot of confidence when your back's against the wall and you're playing a really tough team in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight.
Mm-hmm. You're spot on, and that's what was so important, and it's great that it happened that early in the season. That I don't like to ever use the term rock fight. It's fine, but like, look, they had to grind it out, and they were gritty, and they got stops, and they were not going to just go out and get easy baskets and score 50 points in the first half. They scored 28 points, and they're still in the game because of that. And there's going to be different ways, and that's a credit to your culture, the style that your players, that you give them the freedom to understand that. And it's just, I think this team has all those components because to have that type of win early in the season, it's going to carry you throughout the season. And you go into Tennessee and you know that, hey, if the game's in the 60s, we can win it. If it gets up into the 80s, we're going to win it. We have a chance. No matter what, we're going to be able to be in these games. And so, the Arkansas game's probably going to be in the hundreds. But that's okay. That's
Yep.
Louisville can play that way. And can Arkansas sustain that? I don't think they can. So for them, this is just it's just another litmus test for them to understand and believe in what they're doing. And it's great for the staff to get these guys to believe in what they're doing, their approach to how they're playing the game. It's very impressive.
Yeah, I honestly I don't think there's a team in the country that can run with Louisville for a full 40 minutes. I don't. I know
I think Alabama might have a chance.
Alabama's fantastic at it. Gonzaga, obviously, they like to get up and down, but I think the way Louisville's built, and especially if they're hitting shots the way we know that they normally do, I'm taking Louisville to track meet over any team in the country right now. And yeah, I get Alabama's really good. Gonzaga's really good. Duke's really good. I don't think you can beat Louisville at their own game this year, unless Louisville just has a horrific shooting day, which yeah, that's part of life. That's how things go. And I think we Kentucky learned that the hard way. I think if Arkansas tries that, even in Fayetteville, they will probably learn that the hard way. Indiana and Indianapolis next week. They like to get up and down. If they try to do that, they will absolutely learn that the hard way. North Carolina as well. I don't think you can beat this Louisville team going up and down. And if you do, that's where you go, okay, great. I don't think you can do it again. Keep proving it. Type of deal. And in an NCAA tournament setting, especially, I think you're going
That's
to
the
see a lot of teams have
yeah.
to try to adjust to it.
No doubt. And that's the beauty of what this team is, and that they're in position now that we're having this conversation, that they are back to being a blue blood type of team where they can beat anybody,
Yeah.
and that they have a chance to go far this year because of that, and that they could play that style, and they have the weapons to play and get into that type of game with Alabama. As good as I think they are, and Purdue and all those teams, like it's this team is built to play that style, has enough depth. And what I love is that you have guys like Woolley and McNeely and those guys in Conwell who just are locked in to just defensively. Those guys are just they're committed to that end. They're just not going to give you easy baskets. And you saw that against Cincinnati. And no matter what, they're able to finish over length, and their bigs have become they're only growing. And again,
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with Frew and just with Khalifa, just the way they're playing. When Kason Pryor's back, and he's going to be a weapon that they've got in their back pocket as well. So they have those guys who understand their roles. Watch this team again, how well they rebound the basketball on both ends of the floor too. That's something that to me is so impressive. They're obsessed with rebounds, and they're getting so many offensive rebounds and so many second chance opportunities, and not going to miss those type of shots. And if you want to deny McNeely, they're able to create their own. They're able to create shots. If you want to make it a 4-on-4 basketball game, Louisville's going to carve you up.
Yeah, Louisville right now is grabbing 35.4% of their misses. Pretty good.
It's fantastic, and
Pretty
that's
damn good.
we talked about it on the last show. Like
Yeah.
that's something that you really have to focus on if you're guarding them. And I'm watching teams that really that goes back to our discussion just about you get these players in, and if you can get them to commit on defensive end like Louisville has, a lot of these other teams, it's a rarity, and that it's an absolute something that has to be taught on long shots, long rebounds, about your technique, about stepping towards the defender and where you are on the floor, not stepping in on a 3-point shot. And that's why this team can rebound so well. You're taking 40 plus threes a game. They're pursuing them. They're expecting it. The only person who's thinking he's going to make that shot is the shooter. All the other four are taught, hey, that's a pass to you. Go get it. And these guys are absolutely rebounding out of their area. And that's going to be a huge factor when you get into the tournament as well, because it's so hard to prep for a team like Louisville if you haven't seen them.
Well, let me ask you this before we get a couple thoughts on Eastern Michigan before we get out of here. We've talked about a lot. Defense fueled the offense, all that type of stuff. Was it purely Cincinnati slipping a little bit on the defensive end, Louisville, um, yeah, getting comfortable with that length and athleticism that they hadn't seen from anyone before, or was there any actual adjustments that PK had to make to where you go from scoring 28 points in the first half to over 1.3 points per possession in the second half and really looking like the Louisville
Yeah,
offense we're used to seeing?
I just think they just honestly, I think I've talked to you before about adjustments. I don't think there's they weren't doing anything different from coverages for how they were guarding it, just locked in. And there was plays where they just did not give up on it, where Conwell has that steal where he's just so active, his hands are active. It's we all talk about 50-50 balls, and to me, I never used that term. I was always like 90-10. That's got to be ours, and that's something that we're not making a 50-50 ball. If you really want to win, if you really want to affect the game, then those are balls you come up with, and no matter what. So I think you watch them. They were able to get out and run, and now Cincinnati's we've got to take a bad quick shot, and then that just plays into Louisville's game. And when their defense just was fantastic, but all of a sudden we knew they weren't going to shoot at a 20-something% clip. They're going to make shots, and really, look, that fuels you. And the sensitivity of a lot of teams that when you're not scoring, and that's what you saw with Cincinnati. Look, really impressed with Day Thomas, but look, every time he got in the paint, there's help. They were containing him, and no matter what, and even if he's kicking out shots, everything was contested. I was truly impressed, and I think that this team really in that game, Jack, was just, I'm not pointing to saying, okay, well, they changed this or changed that. They just were better at what they do.
They were, and that's impressive when you're going up against the second best team in the country defensively per Ken Palm. That's where Louisville is. That's why, I think Louisville's right up there, that upper echelon with the Purdue's, the Houston's, I guess you got to throw Gonzaga up there now after they got that win over Alabama, Arizona as well.
No doubt, Jack. And now as they move forward, so you play a team with that great length and defensively that and what all that means is, I was asked that question earlier, like what it changes, like on a closeout. You don't have a shot that you're going to get against a usual 6'2", 6'3" guy because here's a 6'8" guy closing out. So you know what it means? A shot fake and a slide dribble for your jump shot. When you're around the rim, go off 2 feet and pump fake and look for kickouts because you're not going to finish sometimes over, a Mikel Brown might and Conwell with his strength might, but some of the other guards, it might be an issue. And some of the bigs might be an issue. So you know what they do? You become a passer. And then what happens? Then you force a late closeout with length and you shot fake them because they're trying to block shots. Now you create a shot for somebody else. So when you play a Tennessee, when you play a Memphis who have that type of length, now you're adjusted to it. Now you understand, okay, these are things. Just like you talked about what you build on, the Kansas game was great for this team because now you understand, okay, these are things we have to do to get better to play against some of these other teams that have a similar talent. So I think these games are only going to help them. And look, as they go into Arkansas and Tennessee and all those type of games in Memphis, now they understand, okay, it's not just film is one thing, but when you're on the floor, Jack, and you actually see it, it's a different animal. And so I think this team now can really understand what they're going against.
Yeah, that will be something that'll only help them down the line. You learn a lot more about them in a game like Cincinnati than, to be completely honest, you do in a game against Eastern Michigan at this point. But Louisville takes care of business again on Monday night. This is the type of game it was, Coach. I was there with a couple friends and my brother. We're looking at the under 8 timeout in the first half. I think Louisville's up something like 29-7.
Uh-huh.
I know Eastern Michigan had 7 because I turned to my brother and a friend of mine. I go, does Eastern Michigan get to 15 points by halftime? Because I'm honestly not even sure. And my brother goes, no, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, what's a number we can put on here that'll get us like, put $5 on it. How will Eastern Michigan get to? My friend goes 18. I was like, nah, I'm not giving you 18. Well, let's go 16.5. We decided on 16.5. I had the over, and Eastern Michigan had a free throw of like 20 seconds left in the half to get the team total over that you said. See, Vegas, it's not that hard to set a line.
Exactly. Guys, that's live betting for you right there, Jack.
But
yeah. Look,
when you're holding it, you're holding a team to 17 points and a half.
Look,
you're doing something right.
Yeah, the under 16 timeout, right? The first media timeout of the game.
4-4.
Right. Louisville has 4 points, and they're shooting, at a 14% clip, but Eastern Michigan has 4 points, and Louisville had 8 deflections. So eventually, that to me is something I take as a positive for your team because no matter what, you're playing in Eastern Michigan, and you're going to win the game. You just know it as a coach. The players, they know it. You can't bullshit them into that point. If you need to edit that out, that's fine, Jack. So look,
We're not on actual radio, so
there
we're
you
good.
go. So like you know the players know they have BS antennas. You're not gonna you're trying to convince them, hey, we are going to be so committed to making sure we're holding teams to this. These are the number of deflections we want. We're down every media timeout. You know, we're looking for kills. We're down 3 going into every media. We've got to do those type of things. That's what you're doing against teams like Eastern Michigan. And then to come back and win by 40 something points and to play the way they did, which you can say they played great, but you know what? They win by 40 and they don't play great, but they do the things necessary. You lose Conwell to a minor, injury, and it's one of those things where you don't have slippage. So to me, a game like this is almost as impressive, and I don't mean it for hyperbole here, as is even beating Cincinnati, because I felt they were going to beat Cincinnati, and I felt that they were going to get there, and I knew that first half. To me, you don't push a panic button, but to come out after that and to have those guys, because you don't go in there and tell them, we have a chance. They know they're going to win. You just want them to be efficient, and they were efficient on the defensive end, and they had open looks. They weren't making shots. And how you play when you're not making shots is indicative of what type of team you are. And this just tells you that this team has a culture and is built to understand what it takes to win basketball games.
Yeah, you look at a sign of a good team. Yes, you obviously have to get the big wins like Louisville's done in both their two big games so far this year, Kentucky and Cincinnati. But you also don't play with your food at all. Like that's a telltale sign of if you're a top of the top elite team in college basketball, you beat the cupcakes and it's not competitive. That's what Louisville's
Mm-hmm.
done this year. They beat South Carolina State by 59. You beat Jackson State by 36. You beat Ohio by 25. And you beat Eastern Michigan by 41. Like that's what you
Mm-hmm.
do when you're a top 5 team in the sport. You leave no doubt and you end it early and then you end up just kind of you wipe your hands. Good job. Let's move on to the next one. That's what you have to do if you're going to be a legit Final Four favorite. And that's what Louisville's done in these games, which isn't the most glowing thing in the world because everyone looks to, like you said, the Cincinnatis, the Kentuckys, the Tennessees, the Arkansas. But that's part of the job that you have to do, and that'll help your metrics and all that stuff as well when you're blowing teams out, beating spreads, and doing all those types of things. But I'm with you in terms of it shows that they can have the great defensive effort, then they can come back and repeat it in a game that you don't get up for.
Mm-hmm.
Because no offense to Eastern Michigan, you don't get up for Eastern Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can do that for, especially in that first half where you hold a team to 17 points, that is really damn impressive to show that
Sorry, you
consistency
lost the
over and over again.
over. Did you win the over
I
or
won the
did,
over.
okay? I
I, I,
apologize. Your
I
brother.
gave them the choice on 16 and a half, and they
Gotcha.
chose under. So I was the big winner on the over. I made, $10.
I
Life
think
changing.
I don't know if you're able to. I don't know if you're able to watch the game, but on a just to pivot quickly to Zugris and his family. I don't know if you got to see the shot of him. His grandmother, boy, she has a look of consternation. I can see where he gets his disposition from. They show this whole family, and they were like, when he got his tea, and they were into it. So
Yeah.
you could see where he gets that attitude from. His grandma was not going to take any nonsense. You could just see it.
It looked like his dad was explaining,
What a
and
technical is,
here's what
yes.
a technical is.
And they're like, "Don't worry about it. That's what they want from him."
Yeah.
So like, okay, his I guess it was younger sister looked a little concerned at times, but other than that, it was good to see him again. A guy that if it's foul trouble or whatnot, this team they can count on him. They understand. He understands who he is, and that's the beauty of this team as well, Jack. These guys know who they are. You're not going to do stuff that's out of character. And that's it's fun when you have a team that, as a coach, what your guys are going to do. They know their roles, and this team understands their roles. You don't know how important it is to being a good basketball team.
And it's impressive to have that so defined and well played out with one
Mm-hmm.
with all the new pieces, but two to have that solidified before Thanksgiving.
No
Like
doubt, no
that's
doubt.
a credit to Pat Kelsey
Yeah,
and his staff to be able to do that.
absolutely, it is.
Well, that's all we have for today. Louisville has another chance. If there's ever a time for a sleepy game, it's the night before Thanksgiving, 9 o'clock against the New Jersey Institute of Technology. They did beat Michigan once, like 15 years ago. Don't
Yeah,
forget. But
must be a pretty penny for NGIT getting having to go on the road for Cincinnati and then Louisville. God bless them.
yeah,
Hopefully it helps their athletic department games like this. So
yeah. But that will be one of the sleepier games to get through there before Thanksgiving on Thursday. Hopefully, everyone has a very happy Thanksgiving. I know it is personally my favorite holiday of the year. We stuff probably about 20, 22, 25 people to my parents' place every year. One of my favorite traditions. Turkey, mashed potatoes, the stuffing, green bean casserole, pies, all of it. Nothing beats it. Nothing beats it.
Oh, I know. I remember last year you talked about how
Yeah.
much you love this, and yep, it's a fun one. It's definitely a time to. What is your go-to again, Jack? I think you told
Oh,
me
nothing
before,
beats
but
the mashed potatoes. My mom makes
okay.
homemade mashed potatoes,
I mean,
and oh,
that's.
nothing beats it.
Does she leave pieces of the skin in there, or is it just completely? Because I know
Complete.
some, just all the mashed part.
Yeah.
Okay. Some places leave a little bit of the skin for a little texture. I'm not a big fan of that. I like it just all the mashed part. I don't
Yep.
like
All
the
the
skin.
mashed, all the butter,
They're all can't
all
beat
the
that.
creamy. Yep. Nothing beats it. Well, Coach, hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. Hope everyone listening has a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll catch up again next week, probably previewing a really big week for Louisville with Arkansas and Indiana coming up. We're gonna have a lot of fun talking about those two games. For Mark Lieberman.